Hi, James Harrison here to talk about the next Daily Drumming Influencers Revisited. Sorry, it is John Dittrich from the band Restless Heart. Now, John's been an influence for a long, long time. He's a great guy. I got to know him personally, and I'll get into that a little bit. My mother had seen Alabama, and Restless Heart was opening, and as she came back from this, I said, "How was the concert?" She said, "Great, but the opening band blew the doors off Alabama." That's who was the band. Band called Restless Heart. So I checked them out, and it was a pop country type band. People used to say, well, they're not country at all. Well, what's country anymore? The parameters are so wide. There's rap country, there's pop country, there's country rock. I mean, in the 70s, the Eagles were basically country, but they weren't called that. Restless Heart kind of had this pop country sound. It's kind of like if you threw Little River Band, Toto, Alabama, into a blender and blend it all up, you come out, you'd get Restless Heart. Restless Heart had a run of stuff there, but I was just impressed with some of the stuff going on. The tunes were good, everything, and I saw an article in Modern Drummer magazine about John Dittrich and the drummer, and I started to read about him and realized that his background is he's a jazz big band drummer, Buddy Rich fan, just like me. He studied with Ed Shaughnessy in New York, and then he went down to North Texas, and his path to country was by circumstance more so than anything, but he was more of a jazz guy who, through some humiliation and everything, learned to play what was appropriate. But he had the chops to play a bunch of stuff. And after I read this interview, I thought, man, I should get this guy to do a clinic at Boise State. So I reached out through some people and was able to connect with him. And while they were in town, he came over and did a clinic for me at Boise State University. And there's where I got to meet him. And then I got to go over to the show with him and see them. I believe they opened for the Judds on that show. And I got to meet the Judds drummer at the time too. George Honey was his name. And anyway, John Dittrich had a great kit, played well. The band was rocking. I mean, a great band, high energy and tremendous. Harmonies were great. And he was singing quite a bit too. So I tried to keep in touch with him over the years, and whenever they came in a certain vicinity, if I could go, I would go visit them and hang with him. And actually, one time I went to his house in Nashville. We got to hang, and we watched a bunch of old Buddy Rich videos. I think I brought some to him that he might not have had. And, this is back in the videotape era, not when everything was accessible through your phone. And we just kept in touch over the years. And then, they went through some changes, and he started singing lead on some stuff. And one of their biggest hits ever was When She Cries, which crossed over into the pop realm as well. When She Cries, I believe it was written by a member of the band Exile, but became a huge hit, crossover hit for Restless Heart, and that's John Dittrich singing. So all of a sudden, he's the lead vocalist, but also playing drums. And they went through a phase there because their vocalist had left, and they had a couple of albums, and kind of started getting pushed into the adult contemporary pop world more so than the country world, although that was their bread and butter. They had another big hit where they did a remake of a Timothy B. Schmidt tune called Tell Me What You Dream. Had a great hit with that. And then they had this dilemma, are we country or not? Was the record label going to push us as country? Eventually that Restless Heart kind of ended after a run, and John was in another band called the Buffalo Club, another great band, and was singing but not lead singing. And anyway, Restless Heart got back together and toured for years, and with Larry Stewart back singing again, and it was tremendous. John recently retired and lives in Arizona now, and I reached out to him. I have a hip issue. He's had some hip surgery, so we talked about that. But he's just been a huge inspiration to me, and a friend, mentor more than he knows, and has always been very gracious to me and kind. So I can't say enough good things about him, and I wish him the best. But the drumming influence for today, from the band Restless Heart, and a great vocalist as well, John Dittrich.